Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 10 of the Giant Zone, where you've got your co-hosts, Steve the Banker, and myself, Carl Fly Guy. We get together here every week to talk Giant football, and we usually invite guests on the show with us to ask some questions and give us their thoughts. And we got a special show for you all tonight. We've got two of our good friends from New York Revival podcast. We have Mr. Glass Half Full, Spiro. And we also have Jeff, or is better known as on Twitter as El Jefe. Guys, welcome to the show. And thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. And I think I speak for both Steve and I want to say how honored we are to have you on tonight. You gave us some time. So we really appreciate you guys helping us out.
Well, we're not that big of a deal, but thank you. Thank you for that nice introduction. You're, two of our favorite people in Giants Twitter land. And this was an easy, yes, we like talking about the Giants. So let's chop it up.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. We're glad to be here. I could talk Giants to a wall. So anytime someone wants to come and talk Giants with me, I'm perfectly game with that, man.
Dude,
I'm so excited.
To that end, every morning I drop my daughter off at school, and no matter how much I try to like dress differently, I always wind up being in a Giants hoodie. 100%. So if there's another rival dad out there, wearing a different team jersey or another Giants hoodie, we talk Giants. I will talk Giants to anybody, a stranger, it doesn't matter. So 100%. this was an easy yes.
You guys got me smiling and laughing already. And I think when Carl and I talked about this episode, it was such a no-brainer, because no matter what, whether we agree, disagree, the seasons we've been going through, it's all about keeping it real and in perspective. And you guys put a smile on my face, so thank you.
Oh,
got it.
That's what we try to do, man.
You guys keep it light and keep it real. And we appreciate that. So thank you.
We do keep it light.
So
try to have fun with it.
So what we normally do, guys, is we let our guests give a little background about themselves, how they got into being Giant fans, and if there's any traditions they have on game day or Giant related traditions. So Spiro, why don't you start us off and give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah. Well, born and raised in northern New Jersey, Bergen County. I was 20 minutes away from the stadium, so it was an easy pick for me. And my dad, I had no choice really in the matter, but my dad made me a Giants fan right off the bat. Giants came to practice during the strike, went right next to my house. I got got all these pictures with Carl Banks and Lawrence Taylor, and I was hooked since the day I could walk. So I remember my first real memory was walking out of a Giants game, and the Giants lost to Pittsburgh, and I was crying. And it's that's the kind of passion I always love. The Giants have been, every Sunday, man. My family knows it playing around Sundays, because 1:00 is football time, and it's tradition, it's family for me. And it just, I've always wanted to talk Giants. So once podcasting came around, and it was just a natural progression into that, it was just too easy. It's too easy. And then, got to meet Jeff, and we started New York Revival, and hopefully the future is bright with that. So that's how I started, man.
Well, I think you guys are off to a great start with that. I've checked out some of your shows, and I really
appreciate it.
I respect what you do. I'm a fan of what you guys do. So keep doing what you're doing, and you guys are going to be successful. Absolutely.
Appreciate that, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Worries. And Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Very similar. It was my father too. From before I was born in 83, so I was technically alive for all the glory days, right? So like I was born right as LT and Phil Simms were taking over. So and my dad's favorite number was always 11. And then he bought a house that was like 11 alpha so like all the 11s, all the signs were pointing towards the Giants. There you go, man. And it's still my favorite number. I was in Giants gear. He put me in like full pads at like 3 or 4 years old, like the helmet, everything. And he'd be running drills, throwing the ball onto the couch for me to dive and get it. So Giants football Sunday was religion in a way. And if the game interfered with church, sometimes the Giants won. I'm not going to lie. So he raised me that way. So diehard Giants fan, was really don't really remember those early Super Bowls, but really glad I got to experience 07 and 11 with my dad, both of those. So it's in the family, it's in the blood. It's really no choice. There's no choice in the matter whatsoever. I was going to be a Giants fan. And once we started getting into, I always had a Twitter account and I would follow a couple people, but then realizing that there was all these content creators out there and different things you could do. It's like that was natural, and very grateful to have met Spiro and a lot of the people through the Giants Twitter land to make it's a community unlike any other, and it is truly a dysfunctional family out there.
Yeah.
But I do love it,
especially lately.
Yeah. But it's funny you say that. It is dysfunctional, but there actually are a lot of good people. Look, I met Steve.
Yep.
Same way through Twitter. And,
Right.
Steve and I have become very good friends in addition to podcast hosts here. So I get that point completely. And, Jeff, to your point, my birthday is on the 11th as well. So
Oh,
I've got a little affection for number 11 myself.
look at that.
Yeah.
that was my jersey in whatever sport I played. 11. It was always 11.
Wow.
Immediately.
Well, so what's funny is that we kind of started this whole thing, and then COVID hit. So me and Jeff didn't meet each other for a very long time until when was the first time, Jeff? Was it a Fan Fest? No, it was before Fan Fest.
It was before Fan
Oh,
Fest.
yeah, we met
at
at a bar.
We met at a bar in Edison.
Yeah, you guys posted pictures of having beers. I remember.
Yes,
that.
it was years. It was like a year and a half into it.
But that's one of the strangest things about Twitter in general, is that you feel like these people without ever actually meeting them. And like when you're doing a video podcast for a year before meeting the person, you know them.
Yes.
And like you always think, like, oh, they're going to be this tall, or like they're going to be that. And then you see them in person, like, wow, they're like real people. This is wild. And now like I've seen Spiro like 10 times since then. And, he's just, I feel like I've known him forever, and it's weird just the way it all came together. But
that's great.
New York Revival is a good time. And me, Spiro, and Eli are having a really good time. We're still carving out what we want it to be. We feel like we stumbled upon something cool in recent weeks, so we're just going to keep going back to the well and having fun with it.
So awesome. give us a little background about the Revival. What was the original plan, or how'd that start, and where do you see it going?
The original thought behind it was, first of all, when it took us, we had the idea to work together for months, and then a lot of the problem is, and if you've ever been in a band or anything, coming up with a name is like the worst part of starting anything original, because every name you come up with, you think it sucks. So once we came up with New York Revival, it's like, that's it. We haven't had a New York sports championship since the 2011 Giants Super Bowl team, unless you count Major League Soccer, which you probably don't. So we were so desperate for a championship. We've been down in almost every sport. This is like a drought like we've never seen before. So the Revival, we wanted to expand beyond Giants. Giants is certainly our bread and butter. That's home base. But the Revival, meaning like, let's bring some fun. Let's bring some championships, some competitiveness back to the New York sports teams that we love so much, and just have fun with it. Like, keep it lighthearted. We have bad takes all the time, and I love celebrating my bad takes. That's like one of my favorite things to do, is quote your own bad tweet and make fun of yourself. Like that's one way to have fun with it too. But
well, we try to get creative with it, try to have fun. All the podcasts out there, they're talking Giants, but we wanted to bring New York together and really touch on everything. Even and then we even go into entertainment, we go into gambling, we go into fans. We want to be able to share whatever our thoughts are and kind of bring everybody else along for the ride with us, man, because we love hearing from all of you guys, everybody out on Twitter, man. We love you all.
That's a good point. Is we didn't want to just cover the Giants. Spiro is the most knowledgeable football guy, Giants guy, draft, salary cap. Like, he's our guy, he's our knowledge base. But we really wanted to have fun, right? So like, if we go off on a tangent about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock and it leads to like 10 minutes of like funny conversation, so be it. Like, we're not just going to stick to the Giants. Like, let's walk through the possible linebackers. You know what I mean? Like, we need to have fun. It always comes back to the Giants somehow, but we want to also incorporate Giants fans and content creators. So we love the community and supporting each other. We want to have a bunch of content creators on, but we also really want to hear from Giants fans who have a lot to say, but don't have the outlet. They put out tweets and stuff, but they never really get a chance to have their voice heard. So that's one thing we're doing. We're trying to open those doors for people to have a chance to get their face on camera and share their thoughts. And it might encourage them to start their own podcasts and so on. So that's part of what we're doing too.
Awesome.
And we feel the same way. This is not about us. This is about our fans and followers. And one thing Steve and I both connected on very quickly, and Steve, you can chime in whenever you want, of course, but Giant fans, they have an opinion,
Oh, yeah.
and they like to voice it. So why not give them a platform?
Mhm.
And that's what the show is all about. And Spiro, I think you and I are going to be talking much more in the near future with the way the Rangers are going.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I'm very excited about that, boy. I got to tell you,
We have a playoff team. That's
you
very.
know
yeah.
what? Yes, we do.
That's
They're
gonna be
very
our
leading
next
the
exciting.
charge.
series, yeah.
They're leading the charge here, man. Like
Yes.
our whole revival right now is all wrapped around the Rangers right now. That's
They
we're
are
putting
our
all the
best
eggs on
chance
that basket.
by far. It's true.
So
Spiro,
it's been
we may
exciting.
have to do a Rangers playoff show.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time. I'm in. I am in.
You know what? We will talk about that offline. I'm in on that.
Yes.
I'll just tell you guys one thing. I moved to South Florida, my wife and I, from the Upper West Side of Manhattan
Yes.
21 years ago. It's hard to believe. It feels like yesterday. And I lived in the city for 5 years. I lived 3 blocks from the World Trade Center for a year. I lived on the Upper East Side for 4 months. This is when the World Trade Center existed, and still to this day, I'm sure for all of you, just like me, like tough to even watch a TV show or movie with it.
Absolutely.
And then we lived on the Upper West Side for 4 years. And so I grew up in North Jersey, just like you guys. I actually worked at Giant Stadium. People
Oh,
go back
nice.
to our first podcast we ever did, where Carl and I talk about our backgrounds and our game day traditions and all that stuff. But the reason I say all that is, listen, man, I'm born and raised in Jersey. I met Dr. J when I was a kid. I'm a diehard Nets fan still, go Brooklyn, whatever.
Same.
I was a Devils fan because in the 80s, when the Devils, nobody knew who they were. And it was like came over from the Whalers and the Whalers. I mean,
Right.
and then Giants and Yankees, because my dad was born in the Bronx. But I mean, I hated the Knicks.
Yeah.
But when I moved into the city, you couldn't not root for the Knicks.
Right.
And so I
You're
guess
right.
what I'm trying to say is what you guys are doing, there was something about living in the city itself that made me feel like I was part of something bigger, more than just when I grew up in the suburbs or whatever. And I feel like there's a need for what you guys are doing. There's a larger community. So if you cut me, I bleed blue. It's Giants is it. I mean, I still watch my Yankees and whatever, but there's nobody else doing what you guys are doing. I think it's great because it is about a sense of community. I think what Carl and I have talked about is creating a safe place for fans. That's why every single podcast we want to have fans on. Everybody is doing something great. That's just what we want to do.
Yeah.
But what I love what you guys are doing is you're creating like this sense of community where people can, like you just said, get off topic, but it's talking about everything. I think that's amazing. So thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
it
you.
galvanizes, whenever a team out of New York starts doing well, not only is it good for whatever sport they're in, because, the whole city gets behind that team.
Yep.
And it causes such a stir that like it takes off. And that's what I'm hoping that the Rangers do that this summer. They're going on a long run. I hope the Knicks I'm a Nets fan too, but I hope the Knicks do that sometime, because when the Knicks are good, basketball seems a little bit more fun, and I have to admit that as a Nets fan.
I just don't ever want to hear Matteau ever again.
Well, you saw the Knicks fans are wild, and they've
That's
been in
my dude.
hiding. Like after the first game this season, people were hanging from like traffic lights.
Yeah.
They were going berserk 1-0 in a long season. So like Knicks fans are just waiting to explode. Those are the same fans that we all share that. Like the New York sports fan is smarter than the average fan. And like
For sure.
all you have to do is watch a game at the Garden and know that the fans are in on it and they just understand it. Because when our teams play away games and the fans are sitting there eating their food and they're not into it, like, wow, they just don't get it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's different here. So we're
It
trying to
is.
encompass all those. We're not just, we all have our favorite teams, but we're trying to encompass it's everybody. If you want to come on the show and have a Mets take, Spiro will go back and forth with you on the Mets take. Bring it, right? And like,
Guys,
and I'll take it back.
connecting here a lot.
Yeah.
I always knew I liked you. I always knew I liked you, my guy.
There you go. So, Hefe, before we get into the questions, we know you do the videos, and a lot of people love your videos. I think your videos are great. Do you quickly want to just give the background about that, how you got started on that, and how that's developed to where it's become? And by the
Sure,
way,
so-
I think Dabo is great.
I did.
Cracks me up.
So before this season, I did have a comedy podcast where I like learned how to do like the editing and stuff like that. So that's part of my background. I was a musician, so I had like the microphone and some like editing knowledge. So everything kind of came to fruition. And as far as the material, it was born from Twitter, like seeing all the debates happen on Twitter. And it would drive me crazy how two people can be watching the same team and have not only complete opposite views, but they're willing to fight about it publicly. You know what I mean? Like, and that just was I have to put a positive spin on this because there's so much angst of watching our team be so bad for so long that I'm like, maybe I could shine a light on this and help bring a little bit of humor to it. And those videos just got a little more ridiculous every week with, I don't know. I black out when I write these and then I just record it and see what happens. But then I had some friends join. I got to get Spiro in on one of these videos too.
I was just going to ask you
My
that.
acting chops are just waiting to get used here. I'm just sitting on the sidelines. Wait.
And I just so happen to have that guy. His name is Chuck, and he was the bodyguard in a couple of videos. But like once they hired Dable, I'm like, dude, you are Dable.
Oh, that was perfect.
Congratulations, you just got a gig for the next couple of years.
That's podcast genius right there.
A couple more grays and I could be Wink, man. I mean, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
You could be Wink. We could work on that, dude.
Are you gonna start playing guitar? A couple.
Hey, you never know. I don't know.
I'd feature the guitar a tiny bit in there. He only gets like 5 seconds in random videos, but
douche guy, right? Guitar douche.
Good acoustic douche. Yes. Nothing ruins a good time like a douche with an acoustic. So then I was able to like make fun of myself because I am that douche with an acoustic in a different.
My favorite word. That's how you know you're from Jersey. You start using the word douche.
Steve, you may have to change your name to the douche.
A douche. But so I just wanted to. I did it every week, but I wanted to at least house them somewhere. So I just stood up a YouTube channel. It's just El Jefe. You could just find it if you search for it, but it's in my bio too. And I just wanted to house them somewhere just so like I could look back at them. And I honestly didn't expect anything. I almost didn't even pull the trigger. I had the idea for the first video for like 6 weeks before I actually had the balls to do it and like put it out there. And then it got good feedback. So I was just like, all right, I got to keep going until there's reason not to. But they're all on YouTube, and it's unbelievable how much it's changed throughout the season. Not like just my videos, but just the Giants fan, how we were cheersing Joe Judge preseason. We're like, hey, at least we got Joe Judge. And like a lot of Giants fans felt that way, that we were still encouraged going into this season. I'm certainly guilty of it.
I'm guilty.
I did not expect him to be the worst coach in the league by the end of the year. But here we are.
Well, there may have been a coach in Jacksonville that might have been.
Oh yeah. Maybe you're right.
And
you're right.
He's
give him run for his money.
But a fall from grace, that was wild.
I respect the following that you've really built with those videos. I think you've done a great job. I think it was genius. Great idea. I would have never come up with that. So I commend you for what you're doing and keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job with it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Putting smiles on people's faces.
And that's what it's all about, man.
One day. Just trying to have fun with it.
So let's kind of get into some Giants talk here. I know you guys have some questions. So why don't you hit us with your first question, and we'll get into this a little bit.
What was my first question? First round strategy, right? Because there's we have the 5th and the 7th pick. There's a ton of debate going on, and like somewhere in the back of our heads, like, will they take a quarterback? Like, are they? Well, I don't think so, right? Like they got Tyrod Taylor, they got Daniel Jones for another year. So for me, best case, get yourself a bookend right tackle and an edge rusher. So there's a few that I'd be happy with, but I got a cough, so Spiro, you can go.
Well, listen, I think people are getting too set on the offensive lineman. Yes, we all know we need offensive linemen, but if the board doesn't shake out that way, we need stars everywhere, every single level on both sides of the ball. We could use a really good player pretty much everywhere. So for me, having that 5th and 7th pick is great because it gives you a little bit of flexibility. If someone wants to get a quarterback, you can trade back if you want to. But worst case scenario, you're going to have 2 top 10 players falling into your laps, and maybe somebody takes a Trayvon Walker and Thibodeau falls back, or Neal or Ekwonu falls back. It's a great spot to be in. You're going to be there. If someone makes a mistake in the top 4, you're getting a blue chipper 100%. Mm-hmm. So for me, if we get 2 defensive players, I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep. You have the rest of the draft. to start addressing the offensive line. And I don't think they're going to dismiss it like the other guys did, Gettleman. So just go BPA, man. Go BPA. Get the best players there. Hopefully it's a right tackle. And then problem solved with that. But if not, take 2 stud defensive players. Like, you have a great defense. Oh wow! Like, come on, are we gonna cry about that?
We're praying for like one little slip up in the first 4, right?
Yes,
like if Neil, Icky, or like Thibodeau are there at 5, just I can't imagine 2 out of the 3 are there, but like then you have a choice to make. If one of those 3 are there, that's your 5th pick. I feel like that's easy. And then 7th, that gives you flexibility. If Neil or Icky fall there, then that's just, it gives you so much flexibility with that next pick. You could trade back and get your favorite edge rusher. You can do a lot of things if one of the studs isn't there. So like Carl, what are you thinking then?
I think they're definitely going to go offensive tackle at 5. I would be surprised if they didn't, and I think it's going to be Neil. I've been saying it. I'm going to stick to it. I think they get Neil at 5. At 7, I know there's a lot of flexibility to make a move and trade out of there. Maybe trade into the upper teens or low 20s. Maybe I think that's a reach, but I have a sneaky suspicion that with Wink Martindale on board, if they get Neil at 5, they're going to pick Gardner at 7. I don't see a trade at 7. Automatically. I would not be surprised if they keep the picks. Not
if Sauce is sitting there, or like you have such a high end prospect right there. Just grab them. I know there's a lot of people saying trade back. You want the extra first for next year, which is totally valid because we're likely going to be going for a quarterback next year. But at the same time, you can't pass up that opportunity to make your team that much better. You're trying to lay the foundation. Joe Schoen is completely handcuffed this season with cash to spend and maneuverability. So get the 2 best players and go from there.
The cornerback is such a premium position. Yeah. He just fits so nicely. Steve,
and they need to get rid of Bradbury to make room for the draft picks. So that's going to be the hole right there.
You would think, that still has to play itself out to your point, but I don't know where that's going to go. Steve, what do you think of first round?
So I think there's really 3 scenarios, and then I'll back that up with what I think they're doing behind the scenes, just from everything I've read and seen. And it's nothing that you guys and our fans and listeners can't see and read too. It's just a question of finding it out there. I think they're gonna, God willing, we get a tackle at 5, and I don't want Cross. I think it's a bit of a reach.
No.
Yes.
He's never played right
Agreed.
tackle.
Agreed.
He's a little too light in the tush, as I like to say, and it's
that's something you like to say normally.
Yes.
I got 2 girls in my house. I got to watch my language. Plus my wife, So, and Carl knows I can get salty.
Let's go.
Especially on Sundays watching the Giants, right?
We want Salty Steve.
Salty Steve. There's your
That's
new
why I
handle.
got to change my name.
Yeah, there's your new handle.
Oh my God, you're on the checks in the mail. So I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Don't reach. Like, I love Kadarius Toney. Living here, watch him play at U of F.
Nice.
Aside from not being healthy, and that's obvious, I just kept telling everybody when he was drafted on another podcast, I kept saying, guys, I'm telling you, the guy's a freaking human joystick. He's electric. But if I had to do it all over again, we should have taken Slater. That's who I wanted. And guess what? If we had taken Slater, we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in right now. You can't overthink it. You can't. So we need a tackle. Here's what I'll tell you. If you look at I've done my research. If you look at the majority of starting tackles in the NFL, good ones, and I'm not even talking necessarily guys that make it the Pro Bowl, they're almost all first round picks. It's one of the only positions, guys. And here's the thing. And I used this example the other night when we were talking. Darius Slayton was a 5th round pick. He came in, actually had his best year of his short career so far, was his rookie year. You can do that at wide receiver. You can contribute as a tight end. You can contribute,
Running back.
Thank you.
You can? What?
That's let's not touch that subject.
That's another show.
Yeah.
You can get a guard who knows how to play in a phone booth. We saw Kansas City pick the guard we wanted last season.
Trey Smith. Yeah.
You can. You can't do that with tackle. It's very Andrew Thomas. It took him into the last 4 games his rookie year to really kind of settle in and figure some stuff out. It's hard. I think there's going to be some tackles in the late first round, et cetera. But for us to wait till the second or third, it is literally the only position, in my humble opinion. Man, I don't know. I mean, I think you can get.
What if Ikwanu and Neil are gone? That's the question. Do you reach for Cross or Penning? Because I think Cross and Penning are clearly in the second tier, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not that elite level of the first two. So that's the only worry for me right now.
Right.
Those
So-
two go in top 4.
So they're not the only ones. There's the kid who's out of oh my God, I'm flaking on that 380 pounds, 390 pounds.
Oh yeah, the big guy. Minnesota. Yeah.
There's the kid out of Tulsa. There's a bunch of them.
Smith.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Right,
agree.
which is what I'm thinking. 36 might be the spot for those guys, you know.
I don't even know if they're going to reach that. That's the problem.
It's a conundrum. It's a conundrum.
I think I agree with what you guys said, especially you, Jeff. Like, don't reach, and Spiro, you said it too. Don't reach. Don't, if for some reason those 2 guys aren't there, then go with the best player. It's probably going to be an edge. Now, edge is the deepest position in this draft. So I'm going to go against what all 3 of you have said. I actually don't want an edge at 5 or 7. It's not I'd be ecstatic with one of the best ones, but it's not my first choice. My first choice is what Carl said. And I got a man crush on Sauce, but I don't know that I think Houston or the Jets may take him.
That increases our chances for one of the better tackles. So I'm fine with that. I do think if Neil and Ikwanu are gone, I do think they go defense, definitely at 5 and maybe at 7 too. So I don't know, or trade back to the teens if you can, and then grab your tackle.
This is what I'll say. The 5th pick is going to be the one that gets traded because now there's all this buzz.
Really?
Yeah, because now there's all the but. First of all, you're going to get more net in return for the higher pick, so that gets you the bigger.
It's a higher price.
Yeah, the king's ransom for moving up. Carolina just had all 3 of the top 3 quarterbacks in to interview. So the buzz is going to be Carolina's looking at a quarterback. So someone who wants a quarterback is going to have to hop up in front of Carolina. That's where I'm looking at someone picking them, because if you want a quarterback, don't wait till Carolina gets to 6. You have to jump up to 5, and you don't have to go higher than that, because I don't think anybody in the top 4 is going for a quarterback. So that 5th pick is the one that should get traded. A, it's more valuable. B, it's the spot to jump into.
And then you still get your Sauce, your Hamilton, or something at 7.
Yeah, exactly. Then you still get your boot chipper at 7, and you move back into the teens where you could think about a Linderbaum or one of the linebackers or an edge guy like a Jermaine Johnson or Karlaftis. All these guys start to come into play in the teens,
So
and it's not as harsh.
let me ask you guys a question then, and Carl, you too. Carl, you've heard me do this on recent podcasts we've had. I have the points chart. We all know the Jimmy Johnson famous points chart.
Right,
Every position's worth. Okay. The only team that has draft collateral that seems to want a quarterback is maybe Seattle. The problem is, for example, Pittsburgh can't trade with us. They don't even have a 2nd round pick. Carolina, believe it or not, even if they want to move up one just to make sure that we don't trade out, actually can't trade with us, because other than their 1st round pick, they only have a 4th. It's actually interesting this year. A lot of teams you would hope would want to come up to us don't have
What about Atlanta?
Unless
Atlanta's the one.
Future picks, because I mean they're definitely looking ahead. We have a ton of cap space moving forward. It could be 20.
So that's my question. Would you guys, so all 3 of you, yes or no, would you be okay to trade down from 5 or 7 if you're not getting a haul this season, if the majority of your haul is not till next year?
That's my goal. That's
Definitely.
my number 1 goal. Yeah,
I think that's actually
Yeah,
better. I think that's actually better too.
yeah. You load up on next year's draft pick so you can move up and get your quarterback. That would be my goal. Like, so this year is all about rebuilding. I'm not too worried about the 2022 picks, and I think future ones are a little bit more valuable. So give me that 2023 pick in a loaded quarterback draft class, and I'd rather have those picks personally. That's just my opinion.
Steve, within that question, are you saying So we trade out of one of those first two spots, all right? And all right, we get a lot of future picks for next year, but are we still getting back a number one this year?
Yes.
You have to,
Okay.
have to.
So we get a lower number one and then futures.
They say New Orleans now has 3 potential starters. They're no longer a team unless they've been doing smoke and mirrors. It's going to trade up because they
Right.
just got Andy Dalton as one of their 3. They got Andy,
Right.
Jameis. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh
Taysom's
supposed.
a tight end now, right? Taysom Hill's a tight end now.
Yeah.
You guys see the news?
He's back to a Swiss Army knife.
We'll see it opening day.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is all the way down at 20.
That's a big drop.
You guys have heard, oh, Malik, they want Malik. Atlanta is a you-know-what show. They got Marcus Mariota, but do they want to?
That's a Band-Aid right there.
Atlanta
Yeah.
is literally
Right.
probably going to be the one of the few teams that'll be worse than us even. So they also
Right.
have
It's a
ridiculous.
valuable pick next year.
But is Atlanta going to want a quarterback? So, I mean,
I'm just going to throw a team out there, guys, at quarterback that I still have a sneaky suspicion is going to make a move on quarterback, and that's Detroit.
That if there's anybody in the top 4 that might take a quarterback, it's Detroit.
Yep.
I mean, Goff is just Goff. You know, nobody's
Right.
gonna write home about Jared Goff and wanting to be your franchise guy there. So that's the one to watch out for. That would be very cool if they would reach, because in my opinion, nobody's worth a top 5 pick out of these quarterbacks.
so you know why I don't think Detroit's going to do it?
Yeah, probably not.
They have pick number 2. Nobody's worth pick number 2.
No.
And they have picks. I have it somewhere like 31 and 32 or 33 and 34. They have like
Right.
2 picks at the bottom of the first, top of the second, like, which is a sweet spot for those second tier of
Mhm.
in a milk
Howell,
draft to begin with.
Ritter. Yeah, yep.
So I heard today people talking, they're like, Detroit will just wait for whoever's available, whether it's Sam Howell or, the kid Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati.
Yep.
Somebody's going to drop to them there.
And the last point I'll make about this trade back for the 5th pick, especially using that money, it's going to cost money for that 5th pick, as
Correct.
opposed to the 8th or 10th or 15th, wherever you trade back to. So unfortunately, we're in the position that's a byproduct of the trade back, is that we'll have more cap space to sign our draft class. It's sad that effing Gettleman has put us in this scenario where we have to trade a top 10, top 5 pick for that reason. I don't think it's going to be the reason, but it's a ancillary reason right there that is pretty important.
That was the last point I was going to drive home too.
Yeah.
We have less than $1 million in cap right now before Bradbury is moved.
Right.
So I don't even know if we can afford those 2 first-round picks at the moment. and like, you don't want them to kick the can down the road, but so all of a sudden the Giants have $98 million in cap space next year. So like, what a freaking difference from this year. It opens up completely, and that's why they're doing all these 1-year deals, these no risk deals. This year is going to be implement an offense. You're going to see flashes here and there, but the roster is really not going to come together until next year. So we have 1 more year of this suffering. Let's just not kick anybody out after 1 year. Let's give them a little bit of time.
Hopefully it's fun though.
We're going to have fun. I know that.
It's going to be a fascinating month of April leading up to this draft, and draft night's just going to be nuts. So, so your second question, guys, was about when do we think the Giants should draft a wide receiver? All right, and Spiro, I'll let you start that one off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sweet spot is, and I'll say the same for a tight end, because I think both classes are pretty deep, the tight end and wide receiver class. I think that 3rd to 5th round, even, I mean, listen, if somebody really good sneaks into the 2nd, sure, but for me, it's 3rd to 5th round for those positions. I think you get a really good player anywhere in that range. So for me, that's what I'm looking at. I'm going to delve into which players specifically, because there's a bunch I got my eye on. But it's a solid, it's not an elite class, but it's a solid class. I feel like in that middle range, it's got some depth to it. And that's where I'm looking at 3rd to 5th, man. That's where, and you got 2 3rd-round picks, which is pretty nice right now. So
that increases the chances that it's going to be 3rd round, but I will up the ante a little bit and say I'd be okay in the 2nd round, just because I don't see many position groups where rookies can come in and have such an immediate impact if they are the right guy in the right spot. And then you see it every year where these mid-first rounders, which is not like the biggest drop off from like early 2nd round, right? Because all these different positions are taken. You're talking about like wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 6. So there's room for an absolute stud, which is, it feels like it's like at the top of the first round, that second round pick. Like you could still get elite talent, especially if you're talking about getting your right tackle and an edge rusher or that shutdown corner or whatever in the first round. Then you have flexibility. If they're in love with a wide receiver, go ahead. Like I'm okay, because to your point, 2 third-round picks, you could still bolster the trenches there. You could still make some things happen there. So I'm okay. Again, I'm trying to set myself up to not be upset by anything that happens. And the only thing that would make me upset is reaching for a quarterback, which I definitely don't think they're doing. So first round, I'm going to let it play out. If they go like cross at 5 or something like that, I'll be like, but
yeah,
I'm going to let it play out. Because so many, like the actual draft order every year is never accurate to how good they are in the NFL.
Right.
Like that never happens. So all this talk about this guy's above this guy, like you don't know for like 3 or 4 years sometimes who's the real stud in that draft class. So I'm going to let it play out. I'm not going to be a psychopath.
Can I add one thing? Because I think it's a perfect segue to piggyback on Jeff, what you just said. So Daboll in Miami was offensive coordinator, and Shane was the head of pro scouting, I believe, in Miami at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to him, I need a tight end, but I don't need like a wide tight end. Here's the type of tight end I need. I need a guy who can do this and almost like an H-back, and I need him to catch, blah, 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 blah. I think it was the 6th round that year, Charles Clay, who ended up becoming a Pro Bowl tight end for Miami for a short period of time. He was good. He fit the scheme. Fast forward a couple of years later, Daboll is offensive coordinator in Buffalo, and Shane is the assistant GM. And he says the same thing to him. He said, listen, I need a wide receiver. Here's the type of wide receiver I want. And he told him, here's one of the kids I'm looking at. And then
is it Knox?
Yeah. And he did the same thing with tight end. That tight end they got, who blew up in the playoffs last year as well. They both blew up. The wide receiver had over 200 yards.
Gabriel Davis had a pretty damn good playoffs.
If you listen to what those guys said the first couple weeks on the job here recently, they said there's a certain type of player they want.
Yes.
And I said this on one of our podcasts recently, and at first it's like, it may not be the sexy pick. It may not be the OBJ type of kid and the flash and the kid with all the shine that we all want. But I think one thing that makes me feel really good is that they're coming into this draft, and I have a feeling that they're literally out of 300 prospects going, here's the 90 we want. That's it. Yeah. We're not going to fall for all but like they did their scouting. They've done their analysis. They know the types of schemes they want, offense and defense. And so I think, Jeff, what you're saying about wide receiver, I think if it's value meets need, like if it's the wide receivers, if it's a group that he knows, like these are the kids I want, because they're, what does he like to say in the combine? Smart, tough, dependable. Like if it's his type of kids, and then if it's a defensive tackle, which isn't exactly one of our top 5 or 6 positions, but if it's a kid that's like, oh my,
it's sneaky, an important position though right now.
Well, exactly right. Like you have Kenny Golladay, so you have that big target. You have Kadarius Toney, who is just, I think he's an absolute superstar.
Electric.
Like I really do. He's different, like very, very different. Some of the cuts he makes are not human. I don't understand how he does them. But like right now, are we relying on Darius Slayton on the other side? Because like if you get a rookie who can blow up in that spot and you took him in the 2nd round, so be it. You won't care where he was selected when he's producing and he's the right kind of guy. Like it almost doesn't matter eventually where they were picked, just how are they producing? So I'm definitely open to that. And to touch on one thing you said, Steve, is they work together in Miami. They work together in Buffalo. That is why I'm so encouraged that they started together. They can actually build their own thing with their dream jobs. They're actually in the seats now. They are driving this. And I think they're going to get, what is it, 3 coaches in a row that were fired after 2 years. Yep. He's not going to do that again. No. So like they're going to have 3 to 5 years minimum to build this thing the right way. And I, for whatever reason, trust him. I'm more encouraged than I ever have been. I realize now why I should not have been encouraged in the past. Like I tried to put lipstick on a pig last year, and think about rolling like Gettleman, Jason Garrett, and Joe Judge out. Like what a joke compared to what the NFL is. So like compared to what the NFL is doing today. What we rolled out there was like just JV. It was just so bad. And now we finally have Kansas City passing coordinator, Buffalo offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? Like we are building things differently this time. So I'm so encouraged that they've worked together previously and they can build this together.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, one of my favorite sayings you say, so I'll throw this back to you, is this just feels different.
Yeah.
That and lighten the tush.
Yeah.
That's all, Steve. I'm not going to even take any credit for that.
Oh my God. I'm never going to live that down.
No, you're not. I'm using
Oh, this
that
is
now.
football, manly. And then I go and say that.
But to finish off that question, I kind of agree with Spiro on this one. I target third round, and I look at both either wide receiver and or tight end. To the point that you guys are all making, and Jeff, I heard you. If there's that guy in the second round that you have to get, I understand your thinking there. You can give me a guy in the third round who's not the flashiest name on the board, but is dependable. Is give me that Cooper Kupp type guy that, again, he flies under the radar, but he catches everything. He finds the open seams.
Until this year, he flew under the radar.
Yeah, pretty much. It's amazing what a good quarterback can do for a wide receiver, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we're not. That's another show too, guys. So, I target that third round for either wide receiver and or tight end. I think one of them gets drafted there, and then the other maybe right after it. So, you've got to pick in the fourth round at 112 as well. My thinking is I don't see it in second round only because I think the second round is going to be used to fill a hole that maybe wasn't addressed in the first round. There's big holes on the offensive line and on edge. And I tend to believe that, let's say they get 2 offensive linemen first round, you could still get a decent edge in that second round.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what the plan is. Again, I don't know, but that's what I think they're going to address both lines first 2 rounds.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's a priority of need, because while we need a wide receiver and a tight end, those aren't as important as edge rusher and right tackle, in my opinion. Right. And most people's opinion, I think. But you could also see them. Listen, they have 2 third-round picks. Maybe they trade into the second if there's a guy that's hanging there that they find that they really love, like a Pickens or a Mechie, or so maybe somebody falls. And you go up and grab them. But that third to fifth round is going to be a sweet spot for those 2 skilled play positions. And again, not monster needs. Well, tight end is a pretty
tight
big
end
need.
has become a big need.
On this roster, it's a big goal.
Yes. But for me, that's the sweet spot right there.
And then all right, so I know there's one question left, and I know we're getting close to time, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Are there any tight ends or receivers that you guys are looking at in particular?
That's a Spiro question.
Well, again, so there's a couple wide receivers that I like. There's the guy David Bell out of Purdue. Again, in that third round range, it's Mechie from I think I'm saying his name right, from Alabama. Pickens, Dotson, those are my guys right there. Like, Dotson is a guy that was a victim at Penn State of bad quarterback play. He is a very special player. I love his athletic ability. Pickens, again, really stud player. Like, these guys could fall into that second, should fall into the second, and may fall into the top of the third if you're lucky. Those are the wide receivers that I'm really into. The tight ends, again, there's that third to fifth round. I love a McBride from Colorado State. I think he's now, his hype is too high in that I think he's going to go in the second round, which is too rich for my blood at tight end. The kid out of Virginia right now, which his name is eluding me. That's my I love this kid. I cannot get his name. I will get it to you guys, but
What, Virginia tight end?
Virginia tight end, For whatever reason, I can't think of it. And
Jelani Woods. Jelani
yes, Woods. He has got Vernon Davis written
Was
all
he
over
on?
him.
Was he on Good Morning Football this week?
I think you're right, sir.
I love
think
this
you're
guy.
right.
I love this guy. After seeing this, he's phenomenal. It seems like such a smart. He's 6'7", like really,
He's
really
huge, and he's fast,
dude. Absolutely. And
Yes.
I'm glad you brought him up, because after seeing that interview, I'm like, who is this guy? I watched this tape. He's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Like what is his current projection? Do you know?
It's third round. So
one of those third rounders. I mean, I'd be good with that. This guy is good. Really, really good.
Look, I hope one of those guys does go in the second round, because that means that means somebody's going to slide back to the third.
Yes, of course.
We're all kind of projecting there's going to be a pick.
But
So,
it's a deep
right.
class, man. There's the kid Dulcich from UCLA, Rucker from Ohio State.
There you go.
That's the guy that I love.
Yeah,
Yes.
likely from Coastal Carolina, Otten from Washington. There's a ton of players. Like for me personally, fourth to fifth round is where I like that tight end spot, because it's so deep
Right.
that you can get somebody really talented, and you let them grow under Ricky Seals-Jones, who was probably going to be a starter this year.
Yeah, but Spiro, let me drill you down a little.
Yeah.
There's maybe 2 or 3 really good Y prospects. For
Yes.
those fans listening and watching, a Y is your traditional lineup next to the tackle, can block. So think Kevin Boss, think
There's not a lot of them.
But unlike Howard Cross back in the day, is these days also can go out and catch a pass, etc. The majority of the prospects this year seem to be the X and that, like the H-back type. And so guys that can move around. So when we think of Evan Ingram, I mean, unfortunately, but guys who with better hands, better route running, and all sorts of. So I'm pausing and I'm interrupting. I know that's rude, but I'm asking you because you're getting all excited, but I'm with you. But are you okay with a tight end that's not an in?
No, and that's why I think like Rucker would be like, Rucker's one of those guys that could also like a block. The kid out of Iowa, Kohler is a guy that could block. You find a program that like breeds their tight ends to block, and because we're not going for that Jimmy Graham, that Evan Engram right now. We need somebody that could get dirty. The Kevin Knox could block, and the other guy that they have in Buffalo could block too. I forget his name's eluding me too. There's 2 tight ends there.
What is it, Coastal Carolina or East Carolina?
Yeah, likely. Yeah, he's these guys could catch and could block. So there's some guys out there. Most of them, like you said, are the ones that you split out, but there's some guys in Rucker and likely and Kohler that could do both. So there's optimism there that one of them falls and could take the reins.
Like Steve said before, it's going to come down to Dable saying, I want this kind of tight end,
Right,
and Shane saying, okay, we have these options.
Mhm.
When do we pull the trigger versus like the need and the value and everything like that. So I just love that these two are working together and looking at prospects based on system, not just like blindly picking guys because you need a tackle or you need this. Like you need certain kinds of dudes for what you're doing.
Full blooming love.
Easy, we're triggered here with that term.
Yeah, there's a guy you didn't mention that if we go later than the third round for tight end is Ferguson out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Another
I like that. I like that player too.
And catch. So that's someone else I got. But again, that's if we don't get a Rucker, let's say in the third round, and if we go a little later in the draft for tight end, that's where I see him landing. But boy, he's
100%.
another one.
Guys, we used to be so good at drafting tight ends. You remember?
It was a revolving door, right? It was like
Ballard. Then they found Bear Pasco. I don't even remember where the hell they found him.
Well, it helps that Eli was throwing them the ball too. I mean,
Jeremy Shockey before that. Back in our day, Carl, remember Bavaro, but then Howard Cross out of Alabama, best blocking tight end I've ever seen him. I mean, we could draft tight ends.
It was a revolving door of just these monster, like when you got into like that Boss, Ballard, Pasco, it was like one left, the other one came, and they're just monster dudes that would make the play when they needed to, but could solid blockers. And like Evan Ingram is just
not that. He's not that.
No, he's not.
Now you're triggering me.
I mean, he's not a tight end. He was never a tight end.
Well, when I think Giants and tight end, I think Bob Tucker and Gary Shirk. Back to the old days. So
Bob Tucker, I like it.
Number 38. Remember him?
Oh my
No.
goodness.
I don't. I'm gonna have to look him up. I
I'm
don't.
sorry. I'm
remember.
the old one here, guys. Sorry.
Hey,
You're a little
listen,
bit.
we love it. We love that knowledge.
So then your last question, guys, was prediction for the Giants for this year. And Steve, why don't you start this one off? What are you expecting this year?
I'm going to do exactly what I did the other night. I'll be consistent. I'll give you the number, and then I'll give you my quick 4-point. Here's what I think the fans want to see, because it's an 18-week season, 17 games. So it's an extra game. 6 or 7 wins is going to suck. It doesn't feel like it even used to. It's even harder. It's going to be a long season. I think probably 6 to 7 wins. I think 8 would be good. 9 would be great. Unfortunately, 9 wins, we still may not make the playoffs because it's a 17-game season now, and it is what it is. But the 4 things that I think we want to see, improvement in the points scored. We were worst. We want to see more points. We want to see progress with this offense, Kafka, Dable. We want to see this defense with Wink. We want to see turnovers. Turnovers leads to points, potential for points scored. It leads to excitement. Tom Coughlin, as I said, always said, you win the turnover battle, you could potentially win the game. I want to see that offensive line be rebuilt. I think we all want to see that. It's felt good what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, but let's see it come together. Offensive lines take time to meld. I don't think that's wins and losses. That's real tangible things in spite of the number of wins we may or may not have. And then the last one, and we've been talking about this, guys, for the last half hour, if you really drill it down, is impact players. We got 3 guys that are untouchable on this whole team, in my opinion. Andrew Thomas, Kadarius Toney, Xavier McKinney. That's it. I said the other night, if Nick Gates had been healthy and had been the center that he seemed like he was going to be, maybe Nick Gates would have been the 4th. That's disgusting. 3 guys. So in spite of how many wins we have, if we can develop young ascending players that are what we would call impact, instead of just 3, maybe we got 5 or 6 or 7 wins. Yes. But those 4 things I think are something that going into next year, and I didn't even talk about Daniel Jones. Do we have a quarterback? I think those 4 things will set us up as fans for being optimistic, regardless of how many wins we have.
Jeff?
Right on. And I would throw it with that group. I would throw Ojulari in there as a piece. Yes. So, but still 4 guys is not, you look at the Rams, you look at the teams that are winning, and we are so far away. So your point is still well taken. So I still think we win at least 7 games. And I'll tell you why. It's completely based on schedule. And I know it changes every year. It's hard to go on what they were last year, but stop me when you hear a team that you're afraid of. Chicago, Detroit, Carolina, Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Seattle. That's a huge chunk of our schedule where those are not considered playoff teams at this point. So you got your division games. You're going to win a couple of those. So that's how you quickly get to 7 wins. So I think it's reasonable to expect 7 or 8. Like you said, 9, I think, is a home run in a year that is a free year for Joe Shane. Like, let's be honest, you have a quarterback at the end of his rookie deal who nobody knows who the hell he is still, because he's had such a shit surrounding his whole career. And he's made enough mistakes that you can't say, oh, we just need to fix things around him. No, like, he still has a lot of stuff to work on. So, like, looking at the schedule, I see the Packers, I see Ravens and Colts as being competitive teams, like well-coached, good teams, but it's not, and the Packers, that's a loss. So, like, there's not a lot of scary teams on this schedule. So give me 7 or 8 wins. And if they start to gel, and should they get hot when they beat 3 of these teams in a row or something like that, Daniel Jones finally has good coaches, a better O-line. Why not? The schedule is not scary in the least. I think Philly's going to be actually really good this year, unfortunately.
I said that the other night, Jeff. I that to me is the dark horse in the NFC East.
I think Dallas is finally going to have to pay the cost for the roster they put together. They're falling apart. And Philly made the playoffs in a rebuild year, and they have 3 first-round picks, and they have cap space. So Philly's on the way up. Yep. So as much as it disgusts me to say that, Philly, I think, is going to win this division. But it's all about next year and beyond. But I think the Giants can make a little bit of noise this year and leave us encouraged.
Spiro?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking for, just give us fans a fun time. Like, lose a game 35-30, where they're just right. It's a shootout, and you know, the defense is getting sacks. They just don't do enough at the end because they're just undermanned and they're young. And you know, I could live with that. But the disgusting conservative play of last year, I just want that to be done with.
Got to be
I
gone.
think of the past, yeah. But having said all that, first of all, my credibility has taken a monster shot when I said 10 wins was the floor last year. So I think that
I remember that
this,
last year.
Take
Yep.
this with a grain of
It was an
salt.
off night.
Yep.
We're resetting or recalibrating our expectations this year.
We
I
all
do
took
think
that hit last year.
I do think that 7 to 8 wins is the sweet spot, which stinks because I kind of wish we were close. I wish we would have flipped the year. I wish we had 4 wins next year and we'd be in prime position to pick one of these quarterbacks. We're going to be just good enough with the improved offensive line, a better quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator to help Daniel Jones. You know, the health, it can't be worse than it was last year. It'd be hard pressed to be worse. The defense adding some players there. I think by default the roster is going to get better. So you add like two wins to last year already. Better coaching adds at least another win. So you should be around 7 to 8 wins. That if you just take those 2 things and nothing else. So I think that's what you're looking at. 7 wins. Let's just go 7 wins. Be conservative. And 7 wins would be nice because it'd be 3-game improvement off of next year. It also gives you a nice. It should finish in the early teens, so it gives you the ability to trade up to get that quarterback. Hopefully, that's the goal. So,
how many of those 10 wins the floor T-shirts did you get stuck with?
Oh God, I think I wouldn't make those, man. I would have burned them shits. I would send them off to. I think they're still in Africa, with the rest of the 18 the 19-0
19-0,
yeah, Patriots shirts.
I remember when you came out with that, and I just said, I'm not buying into that.
Oh, we were so.
Carl, you don't
I blame
get
it
off the hook,
on Mikey
man.
Fresh. Mikey Fresh got that whole thing started, and I'm gonna blame that on him.
Steve, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
You don't get off the hook. What's your prediction, man?
So I'm kind of in line with you and Spiro. Jeff, you're a little your expectations are a little higher than mine, but I also think I think 6 to 8 wins. You know, to your point, you mentioned always half full. There you go.
That's awesome.
You mentioned that there's some easy games on the schedule, and I agree with you.
We're looked at that way too. So
how many years do we always go through the schedule? And I'm sure we all do it and say, "Oh, that's a win, that's a win."
Yeah.
And then we wind up losing some of them. And okay, different team this year, different energy, different everything. I get that, but we've got to learn how to do it first. So, wanting to win but learning how to be a winner are 2 different things. Mm-hmm. So, again, I say 6 to 8 wins, and I think it's going to fall in there. But again, this year for me coming up is not going to be about wins, and I'm going to do what Steve did. I'm going to stick to what I said previously. Is this year to me is about rebuilding the foundation, rebuild the offensive line, rebuild the defensive line, implementing systems. Getting the right players in the system to operate and be successful in these systems. And that takes time as well, learning these systems. So I think there's, crawl before you walk before you run. I'll look more at bigger wins and a winning record in 2023. I want to see a competitive team. To your point, Spiro, you said, I'll take a loss 35-30 because we're outmanned. You know what? I will too, as opposed to losing 35-3 and just not being competitive.
Right.
So you give me a team that, all right, we just lost because we don't know how to win yet, or we're getting there. We're just a player or 2 away. I'll take that. And give me a team, an offense that can move the ball, that we just don't go, oh, they're never going to do this. And a defense that is going to be competitive, is going to play with a little edge to them, which I think they will with Wink on board now. And I'll take that. But yeah, my prediction also is 6 to 8 wins, somewhere in there.
That's definitely the sweet spot. My heart says, oh, they have such better coaching. You have things that can come together and let's get there. My head says 7 wins, which still means you got your stuff kicked in 10 times, right?
Yeah.
You still got beat a lot more than you won.
Right.
And especially when you're rebuilding offensive lines, more than any other unit, they need to play together
Yes.
for a long time for them to learn the scheme and learn each other's tendencies and when to pick each other up and communication. Like there's so much that takes time, and we have Andrew Thomas right now. As you know, that's it. So you got to build from the left to the right. You got to build guys that can actually play together for a long time. That doesn't happen in 1 year with no cash. It just doesn't. So next year is going to be, like you said, system. Let's get something that can be successful long term and have fun. Like Spiro, we will have fun, right? We're going to tailgate. We're going to podcast. We're going to make stupid videos. We're going to have fun regardless. Which, by the way, you guys, are you going to come up for a couple tailgates or what?
Yes, come on.
I was supposed to be up for one last year. Then I came down with vertigo the week of the game, so I couldn't fly. So, but yeah, my brother and I used to have season tickets, so he still has them. So, you know, we review the schedule every year at the beginning of the season. Then we pick a game where I'm going to come up. So, yeah, I'll be up there for a game.
Awesome.
I'd love to come up for a game.
Yeah.
Do it in September when like the spirits
little
are still
warmer.
high
When it's warm, exactly.
And there's still optimism in the air.
Yeah.
But I will say, like last year, that was the best part of the season, was the tailgate, where you get to meet all the people you interact with on a regular basis, where
Absolutely right.
guys come up to you and they start talking to you, and they're like, "Hey, I'm Bob," and I'm like, "What's your Twitter handle, man?" That's how I know everybody.
But isn't that such a good feeling? It's almost humbling as well. You know, when people come up to you and say, "Yeah, I know you from Twitter. You know, I always follow you." Like I've had people on Twitter, you know, where someone's asked, you know, what's one of the leading giant Twitter accounts that you follow? And I was surprised to actually see my name in some of that, and it humbled me.
It is humbling. Yep.
It is.
I completely feel what you guys are saying, and I agree with that. It's such a good. That's why we do what we're doing here, guys. That's what makes this all worth it.
Yeah, the
You're right.
people that you argue with and go back and forth with on Twitter are the people that you're cheersing in the parking lot and high-fiving when you
Right.
score, and we're all coming from the same place. We just
Yes.
need more wins.
And we were doing this during the darkest time of Giants football, and everybody can talk about the 70s and all that stuff, but this is right up there, if not worse than
It's
the
gotta be
worst
close,
time
right?
in
Ugh.
Giants franchise history. So we have been starting this whole thing in the worst time. It's only gonna, I mean, theoretically, it should only go up from here, right?
Right.
So
Blue skies.
we're gonna have more fun. Brighter skies are ahead, like you said, Steve, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it.
Just a quick question to end this, and you can give me a yes or no answer. Okay, so they were 4-13 last year. All right, let's say they go 5-12, 6-11, but you see improvement, you see it coming together. Would you say, you know, would you feel good and say, yeah, this is something, we're going in the right direction, and would you have confidence to keep this going with these guys?
I say absolutely, because to Spiro's point, you're talking about the future, you're talking about the draft, you're talking about getting your quarterback. So as painful as it may be to have another 4 to 6 win season, that could be your star quarterback. That comes from that. So if that's how it has to go down to have brighter days ahead, so be it.
Spiro?
I'd love to lose like 8 games by 2 points or less. You know, like where
That would be great. That's how bad it's gotten.
We're
That would be
just
great.
So close, and like they put out a great effort, but you just the final score says the other team won. And if we finish with 6 wins, I think 6 wins for me is a happy spot, because you still improved by 2 games last year, but you're still in a great range to jump up to get that quarterback. That'd be perfect for me, man. I'd be cool with that. 4 wins. If they finish with 4 wins, that's where it starts to get like.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like say fire Dable, but like I'd like to see an improvement over last year.
And the one thing that's going to be
worse.
exciting is having a modern offense and modern offensive minds, where they're not going to protect Daniel Jones anymore. This coaching staff does not give a rat's ass about Daniel Jones. We're going to find out if he can actually be a quarterback. So go throw 30 touchdowns and 15 picks.
Yeah.
Like, do what you got to do, but move the ball.
Yeah.
This is 2022. Like, go score points. Like, enough.
Dable said it too. He said it. He's Carl Banks mentioned it on his podcast. He said the biggest thing he wants to see from Daniel Jones, be aggressive
Sling
and
it.
throw the ball. And that's the biggest issue with Daniel Jones the past 2 years, is that he became this conservative guy that Judge wanted him to be and cut down on the turnovers. But that's what made him great in year 1. You took away the one good thing from
You put a leash on him.
Yeah. So
No,
let
he-
it rip, and let's see what you got.
He was still the most accurate deep ball passer in the NFL last year. The problem is
Yeah.
he hardly ever threw it.
Well, that's
Right.
because he had 5 deep ball
Yeah,
attempts.
right,
Steve,
Just
what
the
are
five.
your thoughts,
Sure.
Steve, if they go 5-12, 6-11?
I want to see at least as many wins as Judge got in his first year. I don't think that's unreasonable because I gotta believe this is going to be at least a better team than that team was. Health is going to be huge. I said this the other night, they play on literally the worst turf in the NFL.
No.
So, man, that's a whole nother
In the worst stadium.
Yes.
Worst turf in the worst stadium. It's not a good combo, bro. It's not a
but
good combo.
it's a hell of a lot easier to still be optimistic when it's, are we scoring points? How are we losing? Like Spiro just said, does Wink have an exciting defense that's pressuring, and are we developing young players? And then do we see that offensive line, by middle of the season coming together with these new parts and maybe some young talent? Like, how are we losing and what's the future? Like Jeff said, like, what are we seeing so it'll still be a long season, but hopefully at least we
Light
answer
at the end of the
question.
tunnel. Light at the end of the tunnel.
Is DJ the guy?
Like the most frustrating thing is on defense, we played a lot of like that soft zone and stuff like that. Like it's not going to be like that anymore. So this is going to be a much more aggressive team. So if we lose, it's going to be because the other team is more
Both sides of the
talented.
ball.
Yeah,
Both
like
sides of the ball.
yep, yeah. Offense, you had a leash on Daniel Jones the whole time.
Hey,
That's not going to be the case.
You know what the bar is? No more kneeling on second down.
Oh,
It's a good place. That's a good place to start.
oh.
But listen, if you want at least as many wins as Joe Judge had his first year, then you're granted it was the COVID year, but you're talking about having
right?
like a Dable Kafka offense be better than a Jason Garrett offense. So I will push my chips into the middle of the table on that. any day
Yeah,
of
I'll
the
take my
week.
chances.
Guys, great job tonight. We really appreciate you guys coming on and working with us, and we really we hope we can work together with you guys in some other shows and down the road, and give our best to Eli, of course.
Absolutely,
And,
man.
keep doing what you're doing. Love your show. Love what you guys are doing, and wish you guys much success with everything you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, man. New York Revival. Next time we're doing a live stream, by all means, stop by.
Join us.
And,
Come on.
hang out for a little bit, and we'll chop it up again. We'll promote your show too. So thank you. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you guys for having us.
We
guys are the
appreciate
best.
your time, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for following, and we'll see you next week. Guys, have a good night. Thank you.